Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we got a bunch of great Steelers news and rumors to cover with you guys on today's second Steelers Talk video of the day. First up, we're going to be talking about why I think Russell Wilson's time as a Pittsburgh Steeler is likely done, and he's going to have to try to find a new home in free agency next year. I'm also going to make the best possible case for why Justin Fields is probably going to be QB1 of the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2025 season. And we'll finish up today's show with the potential of Mike McCarthy being named the next Steelers head coach if they decide to move off of Mike Tomlin, which is pretty unlikely. But let's talk about it at the end of the show. Before we get into it today, guys, make sure you give me a follow on X if you haven't already. I put up my film analysis out there. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of NFL draft content on there throughout the draft process. I'm one of the lead NFL draft analysts here at Chat Sports. We're going to be putting out a lot of stuff on my Twitter during this process. Go to @Jack_Sperry for that. Also, anybody who follows me on X today, or if you're already following me, shares this video on X today is going to get a shout out on a future edition of Steelers Talk later this week. All right, so let's start with Russell Wilson. You guys know that I advocated for the Steelers to go get Russell Wilson last offseason. I advocated for him to start over Justin Fields, and I advocated for him to keep starting him all the way to the very end after even through that 5-game losing streak. But I think that his time is likely coming to an end here in Pittsburgh after that 5-game losing skid. And, you take a look at the numbers, and it was, without a question, a skid. All right, the first 6 games with the Steelers, really, really good stuff. They were top 5 in scoring offense during that time. They were doing a really good job. He was doing a really good job, with the efficiency and yards per attempt. It was the highest of his career during that time. He was getting the ball into the end zone relatively frequently. Wasn't really turning the ball over all that much. The EPA was top 10 in the National Football League. And, of course, the Steelers were 5-1. But then, as the season went on and, the offensive line in the run game continued to get worse. George Pickens got hurt, taking away his number one weapon, and the defense got a lot worse down the stretch. I mean, the record goes from 5-1 to 1-5. The points per game go from 28.6 to a measly 16.3. The yards per game go down almost 100 yards per game for him passing. And the EPA goes down almost 50 points compared to the first 6 games he played in the black and gold. So it is a big drop-off from Russell Wilson. And, I don't think that the offensive collapse was all Russ's fault. All right, I think that Russ was put in a really difficult situation. And, I think whether it was Russ or Justin Fields, it probably would have ended the same way where, either the Steelers don't make the playoffs or maybe they make it with Fields, but it probably ends in a first-round exit as well. And the simple reality is, guys, when you got all these other problems on your offense, it's going to be tough for a limited quarterback like Russell Wilson to get the job done and be the main engine of the offense, man. You got to have a better offensive line. You can't have that bottom 5 run game that the Steelers had this year. The lackluster weapons, we talked about it all offseason. You got to get another receiver outside of George Pickens. They failed to do that, and you guys saw the results. And then the mediocre play calling from Arthur Smith was a problem as well. Okay, and Russell Wilson certainly got pressured quite a bit this season as well. And I don't think Russ did necessarily the best job handling the pressure, but he was 28th in average time to throw. That was actually quite a bit faster than what it was with the Denver Broncos the season prior. He got the ball out of his hands about 3/4 of a second faster than he did with Denver the season prior. And, the pressure, you just look at the pass protection, man. He ranked 28th in average time to throw, but in the pressure and sack departments, 40th and 38th. That tells me that the offensive line was not holding up their end of the bargain. Broderick Jones and Dan Moore Jr. were one of the only 2. There's only 3 tackles in the league that gave up 10 or more sacks per PFF this year. The Steelers had 2 of them. So Russ didn't have the best help, but he certainly didn't do the best with pressure either. And my take on it, guys, is that I think that, if the offense would have been as good and the run game was as good and the offensive line was as good as maybe the expectation heading into the season was, I think that Russell Wilson, in a game manager type role that could throw the ball down the field on play action, I really do believe this team would have won the division, and I think they would have won a home playoff game if the offensive line and if the run game was as good as it was promised heading into the season. But this is the run game that we ended up getting. Not only did you really pound the football, all right, so top 5 in attempts per game for the Steelers, so they really tried to make fetch happen. But as you guys can see here, Fetch just wasn't going to happen, guys. 25th in yards per attempt and 28th in success rate for the Pittsburgh Steelers rushing game this year. This was supposed to be the bread and butter of the Steelers offense. They were supposed to be built like the Eagles, like the Ravens. Run it down your throat and at will, and that just wasn't the Steelers run game this year, and that forced Russell Wilson to get it going here. And, I think that the things that they brought him in to do, be a game manager, throw the ball downfield off of play action, execute on a 3rd and long every once in a while. I actually think Russell Wilson did those things, specific things, actually pretty darn well. And you have to remember here, Russ was not brought into the Pittsburgh Steelers to be a savior, all right? He was not brought in for this offense to revolve around him. He just wasn't. He was brought in to be a game manager type quarterback that, goes under center, play action fakes, throw the ball deep off of a really strong run game. And we saw that the run game wasn't holding up their end, and then that really put the Steelers in a tough position and putting Russ in a situation they're just not built to really execute anymore. This is what the Steelers were expecting from Russell Wilson. Protect the football, throw the ball downfield, and save some drives on a 3rd and long once in a while. Well, he did those things. We can take a look at the numbers here. His turnover-worthy play percentage this year was 3rd in the National Football League. He has been one of the best in NFL history at protecting the football, being smart with the ball. And, there's specific games where he didn't do a good job of that, but generally speaking, he was one of the best at protecting the football out of all quarterbacks in the National Football League this year. Then when it comes to throwing the ball down the field, this is what the Steelers brought him in to do. He was arguably the best downfield passer in the National Football League. Big-time throw percentage. A lot of these are downfield throws. 6th in the league in that, and they use 1st in downfield yards per attempt and 1st in downfield EPA per attempt. So when he was hitting his back foot, throwing the ball down the field, he was the best quarterback in the National Football League. And, you look at the EPA per attempt on 3rd and long, he was 4th in the NFL. So he was one of the best quarterbacks in 3rd and long situations when the defense knew he had to throw the football and throw the ball down the field. So Russell Wilson, in my opinion, still has some very good arm talent. He can throw the ball down the field, especially off of his first read. All right, and that is the type of quarterback that I think Russell Wilson can be in the right system. But bottom line here, guys, is that Pittsburgh's offense as a whole was bad enough where it asked Russ to carry the entire unit instead of being a supplementary piece, and that's just not the type of quarterback Russell Wilson is anymore. Back in Seattle, back in the days where he was, competing for MVP trophies, he could just run around, make magic happen. It didn't matter how bad the offensive line was for the Seattle Seahawks. It didn't matter what weapons he had. He would find a way, and he was one of the most athletic and gifted playmakers out of structure that we've seen in the National Football League. And, my take on Russ absolutely is that he is still a starting capable quarterback in the National Football League. I absolutely think he's a top 32 quarterback in this league today. And I think that you can win with him, if you put him in a system with a solid run game, if you put him in a system with a good play caller, if you do everything you need to do around him, I think that he can still be a very effective downfield thrower, and you can still win with Russell Wilson. But I don't think you are ever going to win because of Russell Wilson now, because he doesn't have the athletic skill set to do that kind of stuff anymore. So why not bring Russell Wilson back? Jack, if he's still a good quarterback, why won't the Steelers bring him back then? Well, that's a very good question, and here are the reasons why. I think there are 2 key limitations that Russell Wilson has in his game at this point in his career. Number 1, he doesn't have the athleticism to be a dynamic playmaker out of structure anymore. He takes too many sacks because of that. And then number 2, he's not tall enough to really be a true pocket passer and really make these high-level progressions post-snap in the pocket. It's just not his game, and he can't see over the middle of the field, so it's not even really his fault. It's just the way God made him. He's a smaller quarterback, and because of that, he's got limitations as a true pocket passer. So this is what Russell Wilson needs to succeed in the National Football League, all right? And you really need all 4 of these things to be there, or he's not going to be like a top 15 level quarterback, all right? He needs a high-end run game. He needs a top-end pass protection unit on the offensive line. He didn't have either of those this year in Pittsburgh. You need multiple downfield threats, and then you need a good fit for him, kind of like a run-and-shoot style offensive coordinator calling the plays for him on offense. And the reality here, guys, is that Arthur Smith prefers quarterbacks that are really good at progressing over the middle of the field, throwing those backside digs, throwing over the middle of the field in a full field progression, and that's just not what Russell Wilson does. So this offseason, I actually think Arthur Smith is going to have quite a bit of say in who the quarterback is going to be next year, and I just don't think Russell Wilson is the type of quarterback that he is going to pound the table to bring back next year. And, I think that there's worse options out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the quarterback position. I still think Russell Wilson is a starting, capable player in this league. But personally, I would prefer to upgrade for somebody that fits Arthur Smith's offense just a little bit better. And honestly, I'd prefer a quarterback that doesn't need a perfect situation to be successful. That's the type of quarterback Russell Wilson is right now, man. He's got to have that good protection, good run game, downfield threats, and the play caller that fits his play style. And, I don't want to have to go 4 for 4 on those things in order for the offense to be successful, guys. I want somebody that fits this offense a little bit better and somebody that requires a little bit less help to be a productive quarterback in this league. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. What's the % chance that Russell Wilson is back with the team next year? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me down there in the comment section. At this point, I'm going to give it about a 10% shot, guys. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break, and when that ad break comes, make sure you guys go down there and answer today's pinned question. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be telling you guys why I think the Pittsburgh Steelers most likely are going to turn to Justin Fields as their starting quarterback heading into the 2025 season. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, and Game Time is the best place to get all the tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And Game Time has a new feature on their app called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do is select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen when you click into an event you want to go see, and Game Time automatically shows you all the best deals on all the best tickets with the best views and best pricing, so that you and your family can always get the best possible deals no matter when you go to a live event. What I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. All-in pricing so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So now let's talk about Justin Fields here, man, because I think as we stand here today, Fields is the most likely option to be the Steelers' QB1 for Week 1 of the 2025 regular season. All right, and there's a couple reasons for that, and let's break those down here. First up, I think Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith really seem to like Justin Fields. All right, they love his physical skill set, and it's easy to see why. He is big, he is fast, he is dynamic as a rusher, he's got incredible arm talent. All right, and I think Arthur Smith thinks that he can help develop Justin Fields into the potential star quarterback that he certainly has the physical potential to become. Second, I think that, he already knows the offense. He's been here for a whole year, and Justin himself has said that he doesn't really want to go to another team next offseason because he doesn't want to learn yet another offense on another team. He wants to come back to the Steelers because he knows this Arthur Smith offense, and he wants to come back and really in year 2 show that he can be the starting capable quarterback that many Steelers fans believe he has the potential to become. Number 3, I think that he's going to be relatively cheap. If the Steelers go to Justin and say, hey, would you take a 1-year, $15 million deal to be the bona fide starter of this football team next year? Honestly, I think Justin Fields would probably say yes to that. All right, so we'll see what the dollar figure ends up being. But because Justin, I think, wants to be here and he wants to be the starting quarterback, I think the Steelers could get him for a very, very team-friendly deal to give him a shot to be this team's QB1 of the future heading into 2025. And the final point here is that out of all the options that the Steelers have at their disposal at the quarterback position, Fields probably undeniably has the highest upside of any of the options out there. And if Justin Fields breaks out, if he becomes the player that he is physically capable of becoming, the Steelers are going to be back in Super Bowl contention, all right? Because you're going to have that super expensive, really, really good defense hopefully next year, and then you're going to have a superstar quality quarterback in Justin Fields that can beat you with his arm and his legs, and he's going to completely be able to elevate this offense to make it one of the most balanced teams in the National Football League. And, oh, yeah, you got a great leader in Mike Tomlin leading the way in 2025. But the issue is, guys, I think going with Fields is one of the most risky options for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Now, maybe you want to say, high risk, high reward. Maybe that's what the Steelers need to be doing at this point, but there's no doubt about it in my mind, man. Justin Fields certainly has the potential to be a complete dud for the Pittsburgh Steelers as their starting quarterback next year, and it could lead to the first losing season of Mike Tomlin's career if that's the case, because Fields needs to make a significant step forward as an in-structure playmaker if he's going to become the player that many Steelers fans believe he is going to become. And, he showed a lot of the same things in Pittsburgh this year that he showed in Chicago, and frankly, he showed at Ohio State that really had people concerned with him coming out of college. You take a look at my scouting report for him. Obviously, the size, the rushing ability, the arm talent, and the playmaking instincts, all those things are super easy for people to see, and that's what gives him so much potential. But all of the little things, all the details, all of the nuances of the position, those are the things that Fields struggles in. Mental processing, vision downfield, pocket presence, accuracy, timing, all of these things, touch passing. Justin Fields struggles in these areas, which is why he's never been a good in-structure playmaker. Right now, I have him ranked as a high-end backup and an upside project for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And some notable Fields stats that you guys need to be made aware of here. All of these are like the main analytical categories that people look at when evaluating quarterbacks. He doesn't rank in the top 16, the top half of the league, really in any of them. The big time throw percentage, by the way, is 20. I believe it's 24th in the league at 3.4%. We didn't put that in there. But you look at all these, 25th, 24th, 38th, 24th. Like all these are in the 20s, 30s, or lower, and he's still holding on to the ball for forever. He ranks 40th in average time to throw, which obviously increases his pressure rate. And then you look at the result breakdowns here. So a positive play is any play above a 0 EPA. So 42.9% of Fields' plays were a positive play last year. That ranks 32nd. Then the boom percentage. These are the plays with an EPA of over 1. 34th in the league in that category. So he wasn't making a lot of big plays in the 6 games he was here with Pittsburgh. Then in the bust percentage there, it's 28th too. So these are not very good numbers here. His boom percentage is almost just as high as his bust percentage, and these numbers are going to have to increase significantly if he is going to be the player that catapults this team to title contention in 2025. And he really does need to step up his game, man. He didn't even match Russell Wilson's production this year, and that is including the 6-game collapse that we talked about earlier in this video. You take a look at the 2024 season stats for Russell Wilson and Justin Fields this year, and the offense was better with Russell Wilson. And it's not like this offense was stellar with Russell Wilson at quarterback, right? Fields and the offense was really struggling in those first 6 weeks, and the reason why they went 4-2 is because the defense was giving up like less than 10 points per game in the games that they won. So they weren't winning because of Justin Fields. The offense was really struggling. And then you look at the downfield passing stats here. All these stats are better for Russell Wilson. The completion percentage is better. Catchable ball percentage is way higher. Yards per attempt is way higher, and he almost doubled his EPA per attempt when throwing the ball 10-plus yards down the field. So I think these numbers illustrate the kind of growth Justin Fields needs to make if he is going to really become the franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I hear you saying at home, but Jack, Fields' legs makes up for everything he lacks with his arm. Well, at least in terms of EPA per play last year, that wasn't really the case. His EPA per rush attempt this year was 0.04. That's 26th among quarterbacks in the league. So, listen, I think Justin's better than this. I think if you give him an entire season, he'd rank in the top 10 in this category. But the idea that he's going to completely make up for all of his shortcomings as a quarterback and as a passer with just his legs is just not the way the quarterback position works in the National Football League. And he's going to have to become a legit pocket passer if he wants to be this team's franchise quarterback in the future. And that is the bottom line, guys. The Steelers would be gambling with their 2025 season if they turn to Justin Fields as their starting quarterback. And they're really banking on him and taking a huge risk that he's going to make a gigantic step forward in his development as a pocket passer. But listen, man, maybe high risk, high reward is exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers need at the quarterback position. Because if Justin Fields hits, this team's back in title contention. And if he misses, maybe Mike Tomlin gets fired because this team doesn't get a winning season, right? Maybe this is the exact move that the Steelers need to make. But personally, guys, my preference is to get an outside upgrade, whether that's somebody like Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford. I'm willing to look at guys like Derek Carr and Geno Smith as well to see who the best option is for this offense. And honestly, I'd give Arthur Smith a lot of ability to make the decision on who he wants at quarterback next season. So you tell me. Let me know down there in the comments section who should be Pittsburgh's QB1 next season? Let me know down there in the comments section. I can't wait to see all the names you guys put down there in the comments section. Now, before I go here, I do want to talk about some coaching rumors real quick. Mike McCarthy is now the former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He and the Cowboys have mutually agreed to part ways. Here was the tweet from Tom Pelissero earlier today confirming the news. So McCarthy is officially up for grabs. The Cowboys are officially looking for a new head coach. And, I really do doubt that the Steelers would move off of Mike Tomlin at this point in time. But if they did at this point, I think it would be for a guy like Mike McCarthy, somebody that is a Pittsburgh native, all right? He grew up in this city, grew up a Steelers fan, and he would potentially love to coach this football team if he got the opportunity to do so. And he's also been one of the most consistent, stable leaders at the top of an NFL franchise for a very long time. He's got a 60.8% career win percentage. That's very, very high for somebody that's coached as long as he has. Plus, he's won a Super Bowl as well. Plus, he's an offensive mind, so maybe the Steelers can officially make that transition from the defensive-focused culture with Mike Tomlin to an offensive-minded culture with Mike McCarthy. Now, personally, guys, Mike wouldn't be my first choice to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you want to see my personal preferences, you guys can check out the video I put out earlier this week. Just spoiler alert here, Brian Flores, the former Steelers linebackers coach, is number one on my list. So I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. But if the choice is between Mike McCarthy or Mike Tomlin for next season, personally, I am going with Mike McCarthy. I am that dead set on trying to shift the culture here in Pittsburgh from a defensive culture to an offensive-led culture and try to get some more money on the offensive side of the ball, all these different things. I really have a lot of appreciation for Mike Tomlin and his leadership and his winning culture he's cultivated here in Pittsburgh, but I do think the 6 playoff losses in a row have been enough. So pick one for me down there in the comments section. Would you rather go with Mike Tomlin or Mike McCarthy? Type MT for Mike Tomlin or MM if you'd rather go with McCarthy. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's show. I know today was a long video. Lots to talk about here to kick off the offseason. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already because we got more Steelers content coming your way all throughout this week.